Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about transmission of disease and prevention of disease. And our essential question is to analyze the relationship between behavior and disease transmission. And we'll talk about one for prevention in just a minute. Specifically, when we're talking about transmission, this is how diseases are actually spread. And we have two or really three ways that happens. The first one is direct contact. Which is basically you touching someone, kissing, sexual contact, high-fiving, whatever you want to call it, slapping someone in the face. That is direct contact. You are directly transmitting a disease from person to person with anything else involved. The second one would be indirect contact. Now, indirect contact is where it has to go from the individual into the environment then to a new individual. So this could be somebody sneezing onto a desk, then next person coming into class and touching the desk or laying their face on the desk to sleep during class. Could be on door handles. Think about it. Door handles are really gross, especially at schools, or even contaminated food and things like that. So it could even be someone sneezing in the air and then you getting a pathogen from the air. Now, one method of indirect contact is a vector, right? And so a vector is an animal that transmits a pathogen to humans. And so this could be an animal transmitting it, through saliva or through, could be like with the bubonic plague, how rats were transmitting the diseases and it was really the fleas going from person to person. It could also be like how malaria is transmitted through mosquitoes and things like that. And so this is kind of the three ways that we see disease spread. For the most part, most disease is going to be spread through direct and indirect contact. Those two are very common. Vectors are a little bit less common. Also, a type of indirect contact is this airborne transmission because there are some pathogens that can float in the air. They don't actually have to be passed directly from person to person. And it's important to understand that airborne transmission happens and what it is. And these folks are the ways that we can transmit diseases. And so just being around people that are sick increases your likelihood of getting an illness. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to talk about how do we prevent getting sick or getting a pathogen transmitted to us. Okay, so here's the essential question for prevention. Similar is basically the same one that we had for transmission. All right, first thing you can do and the best thing you can do is properly wash your hands. Now, this doesn't mean you need to go wash your hands every 5 seconds or every minute or after you touch something, but I would say on a daily basis before you eat and handle food, and just make sure, throughout the day you're not rubbing your eyes or licking your hands or whatever, okay? The second thing you do is make sure you handle food properly. Cook it properly, wash it, store it properly. Any leftovers, make sure those are stored properly too. That, making sure that your food isn't contaminated can go a long way to making sure you don't get sick. Another thing you can do is eat well. If you're getting the proper nutrients, your immune system's going to work a whole lot better than if you basically just, eat hot Cheetos all day and basically intake fake cheese and fried whatever Cheetos are made of. Okay? Making sure you're not sharing personal items is another one to make sure you follow if you don't want to get sick. Sharing water bottles, whatever it might be, lipstick for girls. I don't know what you guys share. I don't know your lives, but just don't be sharing all the stuff that you tend to put around areas that pathogens can get into. And if someone's sick, stay away from them. Just avoid them. You don't need to be around them. You don't need to touch them. You don't need to be in the areas that they are sick. And that's why if you're sick, don't come to school. And then practicing abstinence from sexual activity can stop you from getting a whole host of STIs and any other type of pathogen that might be passed on during that direct contact time. One of the big things you can do is use what's called universal precautions. Now, this is just basically making the assumption that any bodily fluid you see contains pathogens. This isn't just for first aid, but it's for any, you come across any bodily fluid, you don't want to touch it, right? These bodily fluids all can contain pathogens: blood, mucus, saliva, semen, vaginal fluids, breast milk, urine, and feces. They all can carry pathogens that can get you sick. So if you've come into contact with any of these things, the first thing to do is wash your hands, okay? Or if you know you're going to have to come into contact with this, making sure you wash your hands is very important. Use gloves, protective masks, and gowns. If during sexual intercourse, that means using condoms or dental dams or any of those types of things that can prevent direct contact with these particular fluids. Making sure you clean up and then wash your hands again. These are the steps of universal precaution, folks, and you do need to know what they are and what they prevent. Okay, folks, so that is it in terms of how we prevent illness and how illness is transmitted. Make sure you get good notes on these things, and I will see you guys in class.